She kissed the coldest millionaire in front of everyone. Everyone was shocked, but she didn't know that one kiss would change both of their lives forever. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, the sound of clinking glasses echoing across the golden hall. Everyone stood in silence, their eyes darting toward the one man nobody dared to approach: Adrian Blackwood. He was the youngest millionaire in the city, his empire built on cold calculation and ruthless decisions. He was admired by many, feared by most, but loved by none. Adrian was known for his icy demeanor, his smile never reached his eyes, his words were sharp, and no one had ever seen him touched by warmth until that moment. Elena was just a simple woman, an event planner's assistant who had been running around the ballroom all evening, making sure every candle was lit, every flower was in place. She wasn't dressed like the rest of the glamorous women in sparkling gowns, her dress was modest, her shoes worn from long hours of work. She never imagined she'd cross paths with the man who owned half the city, but fate often works in strange ways. The moment came unexpectedly. A guest had tripped near Adrian, nearly spilling red wine across his tailored suit. Elena rushed in instinctively, catching the glass and steadying the woman. But in the commotion, she stumbled into Adrian himself. When their eyes met, she felt an unexplainable pull, a strange mixture of fear, intrigue, and something her heart couldn't name. Without thinking, without weighing consequences, she did something reckless. She leaned forward and pressed her lips softly against his. The hall froze. Gasps echoed. Cameras flashed. Everyone stared in disbelief at the young assistant who had dared to kiss the coldest, most untouchable millionaire in front of hundreds of witnesses. Adrian didn't push her away. He didn't scowl or show his infamous temper. Instead, he stood completely still, his eyes widening as though she had broken through an invisible fortress he had built around himself for years. Elena pulled back, her cheeks burning, realizing what she had just done. She didn't know why she kissed him. Maybe it was madness, maybe courage, maybe destiny. All she knew was that in that fleeting moment, she saw a flicker of humanity in his frozen gaze. But she also didn't know that the kiss would awaken something Adrian had buried deep inside him, something he swore he would never feel again. For days, the media buzzed. Headlines screamed, "Mystery woman dares to kiss Adrian Blackwood." Some called her foolish, others brave. Elena lost her job because of the scandal, her boss furious that she had embarrassed the company. She returned home to her small apartment, uncertain how she would pay rent or care for her younger brother, who depended on her. But Adrian couldn't forget her. The coldest man in the city found himself restless, replaying the kiss in his mind. For years, he had shut out emotions, scarred by betrayal and abandonment. His parents had died when he was young, leaving him to fend for himself in a world that only respected money and power. He had learned to be ruthless, to never let anyone close. Love, to him, was a weakness. But Elena's uncalculated, genuine kiss had slipped past his defenses. One evening, as Elena walked home in the rain, a sleek black car pulled up beside her. The window lowered, and there he was, Adrian Blackwood himself. "Get in," he said. His voice was cold, but his eyes were searching. She hesitated, but something in his tone made her obey. They drove in silence until they reached a quiet cafe, one that seemed far too ordinary for a man of his stature. Sitting across from her, Adrian finally spoke. "Why did you do it?" His eyes bore into hers, demanding an answer. Elena swallowed hard. I don't know. Maybe because you looked like a man who needed to be reminded that he's human." Adrian's jaw clenched, his hand tightening around his glass of water. No one had ever dared to speak to him like that. And yet, her words struck a chord deep within him. That night marked the beginning of something neither of them expected. Adrian started appearing in Elena's life, sometimes in ways that irritated her, sometimes in ways that saved her. When her landlord threatened eviction, the notice mysteriously disappeared. When her brother's school fees were overdue, an anonymous donor had already covered them. Elena knew it was him, though he never admitted it. But she didn't want his money. She wanted to understand the man behind the cold mask. Slowly, she chipped away at his walls. She asked about his childhood, his fears, his dreams. At first, he shut her out, refusing to let her in. But over time, he began to open up. He told her about the nights he slept hungry as a boy, about the betrayal of a woman who had once pretended to love him only for his rising fortune, about the vow he made never to let his heart rule him again. Elena listened not as someone seeking his wealth, but as someone who genuinely cared. For the first time in years, Adrian felt warmth, not from the glow of success, but from the kindness of a woman who had nothing to gain from him. Of course, their bond wasn't without challenges. Society ridiculed Elena, calling her a gold digger. Business rivals tried to use her against him. Even Adrian, in his moments of weakness, pushed her away, terrified of being vulnerable. But Elena refused to walk away. "You're not as cold as they say, Adrian," she told him once, holding his trembling hands. "You're just afraid of being hurt. But love isn't about guarantees, it's about choosing to stay, no matter the risk." Those words broke him. And in breaking, he healed. Months later, at another grand event, Adrian stood before hundreds of people. Cameras flashed, voices hushed, waiting for his speech. Instead, he reached for Elena's hand, pulling her into the spotlight. Without hesitation, he kissed her, this time not as a cold, untouchable millionaire, but as a man who had finally allowed himself to love. The crowd erupted in shock and applause. Elena's eyes brimmed with tears. The same lips that once trembled with fear when she kissed him now pressed against hers with certainty. He whispered, so only she could hear, "That night, you reminded me I was human. Tonight, I want the world to know I am yours." And in that moment, the coldest millionaire wasn't cold anymore. The story of Adrian and Elena became more than just gossip. It became a reminder that behind every hardened heart lies a wound waiting to be healed, and sometimes, all it takes is a single act of courage, a kiss, a word, a touch to melt the coldest soul. Because love, at its core, is not about wealth or status, but about the power to change someone's life simply by showing them they are worthy of being loved.